Welcome back, guys, to the next episode of the Leo's Touch podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode because I'm joined by a really good friend of mine. Today, we are going to be kind of all over the place, but again, it's going to be more focused around the mental health, mental wellness aspect of what we've been talking about in previous episodes as well. So my guest that I have joining with me today is a yoga instructor, is a personal trainer, and a dear friend of mine as well. So again, I'm very excited for this, for Julia to come onto the show. Say what's up to the people.
What's up? I don't know where to look. Do I look at you?
You can look at the camera for this
okay.
one.
I was like, hi. Yeah. Hey.
So, the question that I ask every single person that comes onto the show, and alluding to our previous discussion before we had the cameras rolling, you haven't watched any of the episodes, so you wouldn't know what I'm about to ask you.
No. Now I'm like,
Yep, you didn't do your research. So, the question that I ask everybody is what is the most meaningful thing to you right now? So, what is the most meaningful thing in Julia's life right now?
Do I have a timer on me?
Yeah, well, yep.
The most meaningful thing in my life right now.
What matters the most to you?
In
this very moment.
In this very moment in my life that is quite chaotic at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the people that I love the most, and I feel like that's a really typical answer, but I think it's because it goes back to right now I have a really big transition in my life happening, and those are the people that have been there with me through all the other transitions in my life, from family to close friends. And so it's like it's going through things in my life that is new to me, but they're always kind of a constant. So It doesn't necessarily, like growing up, I didn't really, like, I moved around a lot with my family, so I don't have like that family home.
Right,
That's usually a lot of people's constants.
Yeah.
For me, it's just those people, like that core group of people that have always been my constant. So I think that's, something to kind of help bring me back to who I really am, because everybody kind of ebbs and flows with their life and their personality and who they're trying to figure out to be. But I always have those people there, at least for me, as a constant to remind me of who I am at the core.
I love that. And you know what? It's interesting because even in the last episode, me and my brother were doing this Bro Talk series now where it's just me and him. And it's going to be like a whole bunch of episodes. But even when I asked him and the two other episodes that I had before that, they all said relationships and family and friends. And it's funny because, like, especially for what we're going through right now with COVID and all that crap and what we were going through, at the beginning, we're going to touch a little bit on that too as well, was like, when we were separated from those people, separated from our friends even too, right? And not just family. So when that happened, I know you still hung out with
Steven.
With Steven. Yeah, your good friend. But what about being separated from, I guess, your sister and even that? What was that like for you at the beginning of COVID?
That was weird because she actually went out for, I think it was like over a month. She went and stayed at my dad's place.
Oh, okay.
So that's about 3.5 hours out of the city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was weird because I used to have her kind of there to easily just be like, hey, want to go to the gym, want to whatever it might be, or I'll come pop by. But she wasn't there. So yeah, I mean. Now,
did she leave because of COVID? Like, did she just get out of town?
Pretty much. Like, it was like
the world's gonna blow up.
She's going crazy. So I need to get out of here.
Fair.
And like my dad lives on a farm, so it's just kind of she went with my niece, and then it was just easier with like the family there, and so that was cool. I understood that, but it was weird because it was I FaceTime her or call her, but that was kind of it. I didn't get to actually physically see her. And so that was a long time without her there. So I think that's also why, like, I spent more time with my really good friend with Steven, because I didn't have her. Right. So it was kind of like my next best choice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So getting a little bit more into the focus of today's topic, in 2 episodes ago, I had my good friend Shelby onto the show, and the topic with him was it started off kind of like the mental health aspect of everything, and diving into that. But for his case, we were talking about depression. His father had taken his own life, and Shelby, being a person who is usually, he said, shelled up most of the time from emotions, from expressing himself more or less, dealing with that type of stuff. So I think you have a very unique perspective on that, because you work with people who are suffering from PTSD, depression, anxiety, all of those things that fit that blanket called mental health. And you integrate it into your yoga practice. So if you don't mind talking a little bit about that and how you kind of got into that even.
Yeah, so I've been teaching yoga for a few years now. I used yoga myself at first, coming out of dance, like out of my dance degree.
Okay.
I wanted just what was kind of the next best thing for like movement, stability, all of that.
But is that like the natural course of action, more or less, for dancers to move
a
into
lot of
yoga?
dancers will go towards yoga because it's kind of it challenges us for strength wise, but it gives us that flexibility aspect to it. It's calming, it's slower paced, so I don't know, maybe not, but yeah, for a lot of dancers they do go towards like yoga or Pilates or things like that. So I started it in that sense, and I love hot yoga, so I started teaching hot yoga as soon as I could, but I didn't realize like the benefits other than just the physical side of things until I started teaching it and doing it more so myself. I'd always done yoga here and there, but I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah. And how long ago did you say that you started it?
Like 4 years ago.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought it was longer than that.
Well, I've been teaching fitness classes for like 8 years.
Oh, okay.
And like, so one of them was like a fusion style yoga class that I taught. But it wasn't actually like, I didn't start my yoga trainings until 4 years ago.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I did other styles of yoga type classes. Yeah.
Sweet. So then, when did you start kind of wanting to apply the more or less like therapeutic work? Well, I wouldn't say therapeutic work, but like, when did you start focusing your practice on working with people who were suffering from
So that came through COVID, through the layoff. So like when I was laid off work for 3 months, it was kind of,
and just so everybody knows, sorry to cut you off, Julie and I both worked in the same gym as well. That's how we know each other. So, but sorry to cut you off again.
Okay. Yeah. So so when we got laid off, that hit me really hard. It was like, well, like one day we had the job, like I taught a fitness class, like I have a job this day, I actually taught a fitness class that day, or that morning on the Sunday with my sister, and I was talking with a lot of the women that are a lot of my regulars that would come, and we were saying like, oh, things are getting kind of crazy around the world, like I wonder what's gonna happen, and we're kind of not sure, and then sure enough, 10 p.m. that night we get an email being like, we're closed. So at first it was kind of weird. It's like weird. Everybody's kind of in shock. It's weird. You're not really sure what to do and whatever. It's like, oh, great, sweet vacation, at least 2 weeks. Who knows? Probably more. We're all not really certain.
I remember in the group chat, like as because we all had like a personal trainer group chat with one another, and there were like 13 of us in it. And like
just blew up,
and literally we're all like kind of, I didn't say a word because I hate group chats with a passion. Literally. So I didn't say a word, but like I just remember seeing you or Ryan or like our boss saying like 2 weeks or something like that, like, guys, just like quarantine for 2 weeks and we'll all be good. And then you being like, 2 weeks, yeah, guys, it'll be okay. And then another one of the trainers was like, get ready for like 8 weeks, and you're like, what?
I'm already at home like.
Yeah, just freaking out. Like
yeah. So that week, it was a weird week. Like I still remember it was like, oh, haha, fun and games. We're all just like talking about it at home. It's kind of crazy. Like that's like Monday, and then Friday came, and Julia's like.
If you remember though, I was running around that place like with a big ass sign saying Jesus is coming back. Like I was telling everybody.
You of course were.
Yeah.
You're like, the rapture's happening. The rapture's.
But like. Okay, that's a bit exaggerated. I wasn't saying that, more or less to the point. I wouldn't have been surprised, but to that point, I
Just
was
gotta
like,
put that out there.
I literally came to you. I'm like, Julia, shit's about to go down.
Yeah, you actually were.
Like,
You
because
literally.
I was gonna take like a leave because I was going through some stuff on my own, and I was like, I was gonna take a leave of absence, and then I remember telling Bryce, one of our other bosses, I was like, dude, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, I'm kind of just like, I need to go deal with my own stuff I got going on, and like all this other stuff. Like, I have clients like dropping out, and that was I was the only one, I think, at like the first week of March that had a client that just dropped out.
Yeah, I had clients that were like talking about it, but they weren't sure.
They didn't actually.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I think if we didn't close when we did that week, they like were kind of like
100%,
I had that week I had canceled my like one of my boot camps, but then we closed, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
So I had like canceled that, but yeah. So needless to say, that week went by, and I was kind of like, whoa, like, so I've been dealing with anxiety for a few years now.
Yeah.
Obviously it's worse at times, and it doesn't help like that. With anxiety, stress is like the worst enemy.
And your life has been incredibly stressful.
Yes.
Literally since. I don't know, but like, you know.
When was it?
Yeah.
I mean, so like, and a lot of people's lives are. So I mean, I can't. Yeah, it just. But, so I like to be busy. I stay busy. So busy all the time. I don't have to worry or
keep
think
your mind
too.
distracted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to think about all these other things that could be causing my anxiety to get worse.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'm stuck at home, and I don't have these distractions.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on in my brain? Like, I only have my thoughts. And so I think that was when I was like, holy shit, like my anxiety is really bad and I need to deal with this. So I took a hiatus from life.
Yes.
And
because I remember like that first week I was like, hey, you should come over
and I was
hang
like,
out, and you're like, no. I was like, oh, rude.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm
sorry,
so hurt.
sorry, Parker, I'm going through things right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was I definitely kind of went a little, I don't want to throw out this word, but I did go a little crazy. Stir crazy.
Yeah. I like a lot, you know, and I'm not just trying to be like all of us did, but
and a lot
it
of
forced us to be with ourselves when we didn't want to be with ourselves.
And nobody takes that time. Nobody's so like, our lives are so fast paced that we don't take time for ourselves.
Yeah.
So when all of a sudden we're forced to do that, we didn't ask for it, and what do you do with your thoughts? Like, do you spend time with your thoughts? Not the majority of people don't, because we're scared of what we actually think.
Yeah.
And I think that was my issue, was for a couple of years now, or at least for sure the past year, like, I wasn't happy with where my thoughts were going. And I'm not saying like, no, I wasn't like, I didn't have like harmful thoughts for myself.
Right.
But it was just, like, things about my
You're
life,
like, why is
and
this
things
happening?
about my relationships,
and you're, like, self-diagnosing yourself.
Exactly. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way about this? Am I just overanalyzing it? And then I'd overanalyze about overanalyzing, and then I'd over, like, and then I'd just be just like
a little computer.
As my therapist says, it's like, those negative thought
somebody
patterns.
plug in the floppy disk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, restart, Control Alt Delete. So that was kind of like where that sort of all came to. And then Yoga Fit, the program that I take my yoga trainings with, they started offering online trainings, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this because I need something for my mind. I need something to do. I don't remember the first one that I signed up for. I think it was whatever it was. It wasn't the one that I initially wanted. So I did a total of 3 yoga trainings through that time online. The first one I signed up for was kind of like my second choice of what I wanted to do. The first choice I didn't get into right away. And I think it was because I didn't sign up for it because I was scared. A lot of the yoga trainings I've taken, they end up being more about going within yourself. Because how are you going to teach? How are you going to teach to other people if I don't experience it myself? If you don't have a
willingness to learn.
So I I did that. So I ended up getting into the one that I needed, and that was for like balancing your moods. So
Right.
it's all to do with anxiety and depression. And oh my God, that weekend, it was like a 3 day or 2 day online 10-hour day kind of thing.
An online yoga retreat.
Yeah, pretty much. It was sort of, yeah,
Okay.
yoga training
Okay.
to be able to do it. But like,
Like,
I
were you
took
all
that into
practicing it while the instructor was kind of
yeah,
going through
yeah,
it?
like you practice it, but there was a lot of like book learning
Oh, okay.
too,
So there
right?
is in-class sessions then.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah. A
Okay.
lot of that. Like we learned a lot about like mental health and
Yeah.
like with the brain and all of that. Like it's
That's,
all
that's incredible. That's
yeah,
actually really
yeah,
awesome.
it was super super interesting. And but that one I really took for myself, and that one it couldn't have come at a better time. I think it was maybe like I ended up taking it like 3 or 4 weeks into the time off. So it was like 3 or 4 weeks after being off of work when I was like, holy, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like where these thoughts, and so it really was able to help me regulate myself and
Yeah.
regulate so that I could take what I learned and apply it to myself. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to do this for other people, because it really started to calm me down, and it really started to make me understand why my thoughts were doing what they were doing, why I felt the way I did. And yeah, that's sort of where that started, was because I took this training that I thought was interesting, that really applied to me, and I saw how it changed dealing with my anxiety for me, and I was like, I need to help other people through this. So.
And honestly, like I love that so much, and I think that that's also what makes you a really great trainer too, as well, is like and just to give you guys a little bit of context, I left the same gym that we worked at like a week ago, or I think a week ago.
Yeah.
But I had a few clients that I was leaving behind, and those clients were very dear to my heart, and they were people that obviously it hurt leaving, but I had a lot of thought on like two in particular clients that I have who are struggling with their own things in life, that definitely your practice in yoga and what you just said would be able to help them worlds. But not only that, but how you train too as well, because just what you described is like that you wouldn't be willing to teach somebody something if you haven't done it already yourself. And that was one of the reasons why I chose you for those two clients who, to be honest, were the most important two of my clients. And you know, you never really want to say that. You don't want to be like, I have a favorite child, you know. But
and they're gonna know now too they watch this.
But they know who they are. They'll be like, yes, I'm the favorite. Okay? And I hope they do, because now they're in good hands with you, and I'm stoked about that. So that's really incredible to hear. We are going to take a little break just right now, and then when we come back, we will continue with Julia's yoga practice and how she integrates dosha lines into that as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. I wanted to take this time to share some information with you guys about Leo Fit. I'm launching Leo Fit with one out of 4 main services of our brand, and that is Leo Fitness Coaching. What that includes for those of you interested in the Winnipeg area is one-on-one in-person training. Secondly is our fully customizable workout plans for those of you anywhere in the world, with weekly check-ins on your progress and live coaching tips to help you achieve a higher fitness level. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode, and for anyone interested in Leo Fit, you can email us at inquiriesleofit@gmail.com. Again, that is inquiriesleofit@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for listening again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Okay, we are back, you guys. I'm sorry, my videographer almost just spilled his water on my couch, and I'm just like an anal freak about it. Anyways, we're back, and we're talking about correction, dosha fault lines.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So what does dosha fault lines, what is that? How does that integrate into yoga practice? How does that kind of correlate with what we're talking about with the mental health and the mental wellness aspect, with dealing with PTSD, anxiety, depression, all that stuff? How does the fault line stuff? How does that work?
Yeah, so the fault lines, doshas, meaning fault lines. So that is more of the Eastern world's look at, specifically, I guess, in India, looking at depression, anxiety, and anger, and all of that. So
is that kind of like in the Ayurveda realm of things?
Yeah, it's yeah, the Ayurveda. Yeah, yeah. So it's more so with that. Cool. So it's more of a holistic way to look towards dealing with things.
Love it.
So the way that they talk about that, so there's the three fault lines. The first one being more so with anxiety. So it's your vata. So when you're high vata, you're more anxious. Obviously, what's my fault line? Obviously, vata. Then we have pitta, which is more anger. And then we have, oh my goodness. I should. Fail. I know, right? It's like, it's
go over it
starts
again.
With a K. So we have, well, depression is that third one, but I can't think of, it starts with a K. And like, I know it's not karma. That's
Andrew,
in my.
Could you search that up for us?
What?
Well, we wouldn't need to search it up.
No, we're not going to search it up. I know the name.
He's our Google guy.
No, I know. I just have like other words, keywords. Like I've got like klesha. Klesha's, that's not what I want. It's not karma. It's
3 dosha fault lines.
Oh my gosh, it's kapha.
There we go.
There we go. Kapha.
Okay, so say all 3 of them again.
Yeah, so you have vata, you have pitta, and you have kapha.
Okay.
So vata is to deal with anxiety, pitta is to deal with anger, and then kapha is to deal with depression. So everybody has those are emotions.
Right.
Everybody has those emotions.
And the reason why they brought that up was not just to blanket everything as
as a depression. Exactly. Okay. So with more of the Eastern world, they look at it as 3 separate entities that are all within us. Whereas in the Western world, they look at it as like, you have mental health, but not this other person.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of, it's like, well, no, like, and that's the one thing that I've had to teach myself, and that a lot of my therapists have worked with me, is like my anxiety. Everybody has anxiety. You get anxiety. It's you're nervous, you're anxious, whatever. Some people more so than others, but it's just another emotion. So acknowledge it, just like you would when you're really happy, when you're really sad, when you're depressed, when you're excited. When you're anxious, right? So it's acknowledging it, and it's not pushing it away. So they look at it like everybody has those fault lines within them, depending on where their moods are, where maybe their hormones are, maybe where their life is, their stresses and stuff. Those fault lines will kind of change, just kind of like how your moods change throughout, as a female, throughout the month. I mean, I'm sure some males also. I don't know. I've heard that. I've heard that.
Actually, my brother is very much like that.
Yeah, no, but I've heard that males actually, they do have a hormonal period. Yes. So yeah, throughout the month, your moods do change, but throughout your life, so they do as well. So that's the way that the Eastern world looks at things. So the way that we work that into a yoga practice is that somebody with like, you have a main fault line. So my main fault line would be vata. I think that your main fault line, like from just knowing you, I think you'd probably be a mixture between like pitta and kapha.
That's like anger and depression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't take offense to that.
It's okay, and that's the thing. Like from learning all of it too. It's
I'm not angry. I'm super happy.
No, you get really.
I think you're right. You hit it.
Yeah, and those are just your main ones.
Yeah.
But you could be really anxious at one time, and then that one's out of whack.
I very rarely get anxious, but when I do, it's horrible. It's
and
horrible.
that's what's really neat about too with when you're high vata. The anxious energy actually pulls the other two out of place. So unfortunately for me, who I'm mainly in that sort of anxious bit, when I'm really anxious, then I get irritated from my pitta also being elevated, and then I could go into a bit of a depression. And I did go, like, my anxiety was so bad this past winter that I did go into a really bad depression. I haven't felt that way since high school. So that was another big thing that I've been dealing with. So that's the fault lines. get into play with yoga practice, because with yoga you get into your mind a lot. You might be just meditating, you might be just, holding that pose for 10 long breaths, and it's like mind over matter, right? Like you're thinking, oh my gosh, like this is, I'm here in like a lot of people in the world that we live in, we're go 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 go, and all of a sudden it's uncomfortable to be still. Especially somebody with PTSD, stillness and quiet and a dark room to meditate in, which a lot of yoga, it ends up, I do it. I go say I'm going to shut the lights off. That's not comfortable for a lot of people. And the big thing is why it's not comfortable is because then we're stuck with our thoughts. So getting used to your thoughts and understanding them all, and acknowledging them and acknowledging your feelings is a lot of what yoga practice is. Yoga, the poses, like what we do in the Western side of things, a lot of people here think of yoga as just the poses, the hour. I go to yoga class once a week for an hour, and I practice yoga, but practicing yoga is a lifestyle. So understanding your fault line is part of your life. Understanding that I am high vata, and there's certain things like vata, to calm it. Like I love plants. Like I love that brings me down, that grounds me. I need a grounding energy to bring me back into balance, which makes so much. When I was learning this, I said, oh, no wonder I love nature. No wonder I love heat, because vata is more of a cool, dry climate. If it's cold and dry, it pulls me more into an anxious mood. So I need more of like, that's why, I love practicing hot yoga. Oh, well, that's because it makes me feel better. Somebody with high pitta, hot yoga is not necessarily the best for them, because heat just elevates it. Anger elevates it. Hot foods elevate that.
And I can kind of concur with that. Like, I mean, I've shared with you, because I've done many of your hot yoga classes, and also, what is that? Nikita.
Yeah.
Her classes too as well. Well, like if I really need to get through something, I go to Nikita's class, because like I go. I listened to another podcaster named Aubrey Marcus, and he's big into like the psychedelics and like all of that different type of stuff. And he had this guy who came on, and he talked about like shrooms and all this stuff, and the story about like how when the tribes would go through like this dark visualization of like death and all these crazy things, and how they would do that as a practice to like recenter themselves. And I associated going to Nikita's hot yoga classes, like they called it the battle toad. They called it the battle toad. And it's like I don't know, it's really gross. I actually don't want to describe it now that I'm thinking about it, but like
Google it.
Yeah, Google it if you're interested about it.
Love me Google.
And search up Aubrey Marcus's podcast, and I'm sure you'll find
Battle
it too
toad.
as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have said that. But anyways, so like I like what you're saying is somebody in the more, what is that? Pitta?
Yeah.
Pitta? Side of things, like going into a hot yoga, I'm already like, my girlfriend always says, she's like you're so warm all the time. I'm like, I know, I'm roasting. I take cold showers. I haven't had a warm shower in 4 years.
I know. And where's like, feel my feet.
I believe it, right?
They're so cold.
And
always.
Going into like hot yoga for myself was like always a mental battle, and just like you're alluding to, and but it's something that we need, is to be in that moment, to be present in that moment, but to face those struggles, but also have that stillness that you talked about. And I find it very interesting that phrase keeps coming up. I've heard it in church now quite a bit. I've heard it also in several podcasts that I'm listening to, and I'm also reading Stillness is the Key. So I think that's also why. But it also just teaches us that in our stressful lives, right, when we let all these things pour into us and take away from us, that just being still does wonders. And I think, alluding back to what we talked about with COVID, being with ourselves and being still with ourselves, to me, that was my saving grace.
Yeah. And it's but yes and no. I think that the world has decided that this whole, I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone else, but has decided that this whole COVID pandemic has really taught everybody to slow things down.
100%.
Because we don't. And I feel like that's kind of where this whole theme of our talk is going. But we really don't slow things down to get to know ourselves. We just kind of go through life and, okay, I'm going to do this because this is what society tells me to do. And I'm going to do this, and this is the next step, and this is the next step, and this is the next step. But we don't ever sit there and stop and, go inside and say, but is this the next step for me?
Yeah.
But so then that takes it back to somebody who does deal with anxiety, depression, or has had a traumatic experience in their life that deals with PTSD. That's scary for people to go into their mind.
Right.
So with yoga, it's, I'm not saying do yoga, don't do therapy. I mean, somebody who's I have a therapist. I do that. That's for the mental side of things too, so that when I go into my mind, when I'm trying to meditate and things come up or I can't calm it, that's when I can go to my therapist and say, why, I can be like, why am I doing this? What, these are these patterns.
Yeah. I think having a therapist, before, oh, that person's a crazy person, they have a therapist, was but now
it's like you go to your doctor for a checkup, so why not go to your therapist for a checkup? It's the same thing. Your doctor's there for your body, your therapist is there for your mind. Yeah. So speaking of going for the body, that's where the yoga aspect comes into it. So knowing what your dosha is, or going to somebody who's a yoga instructor like me, Julia. So
we'll have her Instagram handle, all that stuff
Here's
in
my website.
The description.
Just kidding, I don't have one. Here's my Instagram. This is where you plop it into that screen.
I don't know if Andrew wants to go through that again.
Your hand up and right there. Yeah. Click right here. But going to somebody that can help you with that, then, for instance, like certain poses help within the body to bring somebody back into balance. Like, no, not after one practice, you're not gonna be like, oh, I'm great, I don't have anxiety.
Oh, I'm perfect.
But it's like, okay, well, these are the poses that you should be practicing, and these are the poses that you should be doing, and this is the breath work that you should be doing with those poses, or this is what you should be doing together, whatever it may be. And that's going to help bring you back down. That's going to help calm you. That's going to help ground you. That's going to help lift you up, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Because we're always looking for that quick fix, right? And I think with that, it more or less promotes the longevity aspect, right?
Yeah.
And that's even today I just went for RMT appointment, deep tissue massage, and she's like, I hope you know that after this you're not just gonna feel great, everything's not just gonna go back to normal, you need to keep working on this. And this is a constant conversation that I'm sure you and I both have with our clients, that just because you do something once and it feels great afterwards doesn't mean it's done.
You have to keep working on it. And so that's where it's kind of like yoga it pairs, this type of a yoga practice pairs great with therapy for somebody who's dealing with anxiety, depression, PTSD, even, I deal with a lot of recovering addictions and all of that too. That's where part of my training is with that, because with addictions, recovery, why were they addicted?
Right.
Was it PTSD? Was it depression? Was it anxiety? Was there something in their life did they have this hole in their life, this void that they were trying to fill with this whether it be alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever, with this addiction? What created that hole? And how can we fill that with something that is more meaningful to your life long term? So that's where, the therapy for your mind, it's like the top down approach, but yoga takes it as the bottom up approach.
Interesting.
So we're dealing with your body stores trauma. So if you go through a traumatic experience in your life, it will hold on. That's where like psoas releases, if you've ever heard of that, comes into play.
I haven't heard about that.
So your body stores trauma if you didn't deal with it properly. Anywhere from like if you you get in a car accident and you get whiplash,
right?
You could get over that whiplash, but you're always going to have this lingering neck pain because it's this trauma. Like I'm not saying this isn't scientific. I'm just saying like it could be stored there, whatever it may be.
Right.
Somebody that goes through a traumatic, you know, if it's like a experience of I don't know if I should bring this up, but if someone was, say, raped or molested or whatever it might be, they might hold on to that. There's repressed memories that could have happened. They don't necessarily remember it, but they remember in their body.
Yeah.
Like their body will hold on to that. So that's where it also, it's almost kind of like a scary thing too as an instructor, where if I take somebody into that moment and that we start to release things within the body, that comes back into their mind. I'm not the therapist.
Yes.
I'm the yoga instructor. So that's when the therapy comes into place. I've let that out so then they can work through it with their mind.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's more of a bottom-up approach.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it's not something that I'm saying come and do yoga. You know, you're going to fix all your problems, but it's a good partnership.
It's a good way to start.
It's a good way to start.
Yes.
And it's a good partnership with it. Or it's a good way to go if you have been going to therapy for years and you're needing something else. It's a good way it's like a coping mechanism.
Right.
That's a kind of where I was trying to go with. Yeah, a coping mechanism. A lot of therapists will they'll say, okay, I need, you know, for me, it's like, okay, my coping mechanism when I'm really anxious, I need to just go into a dark room and maybe just close off the lights and breathe and just like feel my breath, feel my feet, bring myself back down, try to let go of my thoughts. That's one way I can cope with it rather than going to a glass of wine that numbs me.
Yeah. No,
right?
that's fair because a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and I have done that. I've been there for sure. So yoga is a good coping mechanism, and if I can give people the tools that I can say, okay, you're very depressed right now, okay, we're gonna do a lot of heart openers. This is gonna be your mantra for you, this is gonna be your affirmation, this is gonna be the breathing technique that's gonna help uplift you and take you out of that feeling of that slump. This is what you can do on those days or in those moments. So it's just giving them that knowledge. Like I go about yoga to teach them to be able to help them deal with it themselves.
So then
giving them a tool.
So my next question would be for you is when did you start therapy and what was that first experience with therapy like, and now what is your relationship with the idea of therapy?
So the first time I went to therapy was actually in high school. I was bullied a lot. I hate that word.
What high school did you go to?
I'm not from here.
What high school did you go to?
I grew up in Dauphin.
Oh, okay.
So I
screw you, all the Dauphin people that made fun of Julia.
It wasn't like making fun of. It wasn't like and I hate the word bullied, and I hate like saying that. But I don't know, like my sister, my sister, my parents are always like, no, you were bullied.
Yeah.
But I just had like a lot of friends who I thought were friends that caused a lot of problems for me. Like from like, I had like a situation in like grade 6 and then like 7 and like grade 9 and then grade 12. Like I'm
so all over the place.
All over the place. Yeah. And there's always kind of like, I mean, girls like, and that's why I always think about, I can only imagine growing up now, like that was back when it was like Facebook was still new and MSN was the thing.
Yeah.
And
even I remember MSN.
Yeah, and it's wow. No, you don't.
Sorry.
No, you don't.
Not trying to make you feel old or anything, but
you don't. So that was, like I don't know, like that I thought was hard as it was with, your it's one thing for people at school to sit there and talk about you
Yeah.
or to your face. You hear about these rumors or whatever. But then to go home to your safe place and then log onto your computer
It follows you home.
and it follows you home. So I can only imagine that these cell phones that people have now, you don't only have Facebook, but there's Instagram, there's
TikTok,
Snapchat, there's
all this.
I don't even know all of them after
Yeah.
that. Like all these video things. I can't imagine what it's like now. Like something happens in schools now, and everybody knows within the next 30 seconds because
Yeah.
somebody just caught it on their Snapchat or whatever kids use now, like their Instagram stories or whatever.
Okay, you're not that old, Julia.
I don't use Snapchat anymore.
Yeah, I don't use Snapchat either.
But I feel like there's like these other video things that are coming out, like reels.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Honestly, who knows?
But there's so many. So,
if you
needless
choose
to say,
to use those things, you choose to use those things. But don't tell me that you get frustrated with it and be like, "Oh, Instagram sucks these days." Well, you choose to be on Instagram.
No, yeah, I like Instagram. I do like
Instagram's
Instagram.
great.
I like Instagram.
Instagram's
That's
great.
definitely Like I have Facebook, but I rarely go on it.
Yeah.
I do like Instagram a lot, but
Kind of like therapy, right? When you started that.
Yeah,
and
so
then,
I started.
And then what was the progression?
Yeah, so I started that in high school because of all of those issues. Plus my parents, my parents were divorced when I was really, really young. My mom remarried, great. I don't remember my divorce with my parents. I was really young, but it just like I guess having like the split family and like
When did your parents split?
I was two.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
like
you
I
don't
don't
even-
remember. Yeah. But I mean there was challenges to it. But I didn't really realize those challenges until I got older.
Right.
Between like having the split family and all of that. So I started therapy in high school to deal with things that I was going on with school, with my friend group and stuff. And my parents, it wasn't new to them. Like my mom's always been in therapy. My mom has dealt with a lot of mental health issues herself. And so that was my first initial intro to what therapy was. And so I'm no stranger to it. Later on in life, I didn't, use it as I wish I did keep up with it.
Okay. Did you resent it at any point? Like, were you ever just like, oh, I don't want to go to my therapist? Or has it always been kind of like something that you've looked forward to?
I wouldn't say that I look forward to it.
Okay,
I mean,
fair.
it is nerve-wracking, like, especially getting a new therapist, which is, I have a newer one right now, and I'm a suck. I don't know. I don't want to say I'm a suck, but like I'm emotional. I'm a very emotional person. I feel my emotions. I feel other people's emotions. I guess you could say, like I'm an empath. I'm very empathetic. And so I find it really hard to open up to new people.
Okay.
And I'm always like an emotional wreck through the whole thing because it's like I have a hard time dealing with my own emotions, so I'm sitting there judging my emotions and maybe things that I'm working through, and I'm like, these are my most personal experiences, and I'm sharing them with this person that I barely know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a really hard thing, but I don't have a hard time opening up about issues. It's just to someone I don't feel comfortable with. So I think that's the biggest thing is scary for people is to go to a therapist. You don't know them.
Yeah.
Like how do you feel comfortable opening up about something you're dealing with, something that maybe you don't even want to say out loud? So that's really hard. And that's where maybe, to go back onto the whole yoga side of things, to be comfortable with those thoughts a little bit more so before you go into therapy.
From an independent standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that might be
into
something that would be a little bit easier for people to transition into it. So therapy is another. It's now kind of like new again into my life. Like I did take a break from going to see a therapist.
Right.
But I have friends that are, like I said right at the beginning, like friends that are my rocks. I have a friend I've known since I was 3. Like my core group of friends, like I have, like my best friends I've known since I was 3, since I was in grade 2, since I was in daycare, since I was in grade 6. Like they've known me
young,
through my whole, like before I hit puberty.
Yeah.
So they know who I am, even when I'm, really happy, really sad, really whatever, they know all those different sides of me, so I could just be myself.
Right.
So it really helps having that core group of people, and I think that's like going through my whole life, they've always been there for me. So they are kind of my therapy in that sense, but I really feel for people who don't have those people in their life, and that's where a therapist could come into play.
Love that.
So I mean, it's like you have to shop around a little bit sometimes, right? You need to find the right one. Do you feel like I've had a therapist like through COVID? I had a therapist I wasn't a fan of, and it was hard because it wasn't in person; it was over the phone. But it was weird. Like she always felt disconnect. I could tell the disconnect over the phone. Or there was like times I'm like, "Are you outside right now? Are you walking? Like what is going on?" And then I'm disconnected. I'm like, "How am I supposed to open up to you when I don't feel like you're
Did I just
receiving?
hear you ordering Popeyes?
Like,
Where
I don't feel like you're receiving what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If that was the case, I would just go talk to my friends where I know that they might not necessarily give me the tools or the feedback that's like that's I guess the best part about a therapist is there's someone removed from the situation.
And it's their job too to
yes,
listen.
Yes, like and they've studied and they can help you figure out. Like my therapist I have right now, it's like, okay, well, where did my anxiety stem from? A lot of anxiety comes from like phobias, things that you're scared of.
Okay.
And so it's like, well, what is my phobia? What is things that make me feel uncomfortable?
Right.
And why is that? What caused that? Okay. So it's kind of going back to the why behind things and trying to understand.
Would she show you like in the beginning, I'm more or less, because I'm only familiar with therapy as like what they depict it as in the movies. Right, I wish I had a therapist.
No, there's no pictures.
They don't show you like a weird butterfly and like a brain that's.
No, this is not the butterfly effect. Oh, okay. No.
Sorry, stupid question, but you know what? I have to ask it.
They're just there to talk. I mean, like, there might be some.
Is there a chaise lounger?
Well, with COVID, it's a lot either over
excluding video. COVID, like I'm talking like.
The therapist I went to in high school, like it was kind of like. It was just it was in their house. They worked at their house, but then they had like an office, and had like these doors. I remember they closed, and it was just like a couch, a couple couches. Yeah,
interesting.
I wasn't like
on the shades. Well, you know what? This topic kind of gives me and what you've described, and I appreciate you for sharing that. But it's like it kind of now gives a tribute to what we do. Right, you're a personal trainer, as am I, and I'm sure you've been a personal trainer for
not quite a year.
Not quite a year yet, almost a year. Myself a little longer than that too, as well. And quickly we found that all of a sudden we're therapists in a gym. We're therapists almost at the end of the day. Unlicensed therapists at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We hear a lot of things that we probably shouldn't. We help our clients with things that aren't in our practice, right? But we do it because we have this genuine care of helping this person get better. And we understand, and I think you understand more than anybody, is that all of those emotions can be resolved through physical activity, through practice of yoga, through all of those things that promote better health, but also promote better mental health. And I think that's really incredible, and that's why I love what we do and what we get to do on a daily basis. So kind of, if you don't mind, speak on that and how, like, what is personal training and starting that, because I know that was a big thing for you when you got started, is that you didn't know like what it was like, because you said that you taught group fitness for a long time and now transitioning into personal training. What was that really like for you?
So I taught group fitness for a really long time, with yoga, dance, fitness, or whatever it may be. That's like me half the time acting like an idiot on the stage so that they're having fun getting their workout in.
I don't know. You made me cry in one of those core classes. And you just like looked at me. You're like, do it. I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to.
You're fine.
Yeah.
I did.
You remember that? Yeah. Like
you're front center. I was like, Parker. Yeah, actually, that was so funny.
I had to be like at the end of the class. Yeah, I'm a personal trainer. If you need help, come talk to me. And I'm just like wiping the tears away.
Yeah.
I don't miss that.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, so it's different because you're on stage, you're doing it with them, you're pumping them through it. You're like, you got this.
Yeah.
I'm like, so many people that still to this day that are like regulars in my classes or that come to me as clients now. They're like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, well, behind my smile, like, I smile when I'm in pain because that's what I've been trained to do. So behind my smile, and I'm like, you guys are fine. I'm like dying inside. So it was different because then I come into the personal training side of things where they're doing it. I'm showing them what to do.
Yeah.
Then they're just doing it.
But you're not sweating your face off.
No, exactly. I felt really out of place when I first started it. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel right. And actually, it's funny because I think that my journey through COVID with not only did I take those through COVID, but through the layoff of it all, I not only did I take those 3 yoga trainings, but I also took a personal training course.
Right.
And I felt like all of that combined really helped me grow, not just as a trainer, but as a person. To, like you said, help them as the whole.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like, I know things about my clients. Like, they tell me things. I have a client going through something right now that she full on told me that me and her dad we're the only people that know, aside from her husband. And when she told me that, I said, wow, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Why I need to know, because it's going on with her body and working with her body. But it's, yeah, like, you're right. It's a therapy session for them. And a lot of kind of like what I said, the bottom-up approach, right? With yoga, the bottom-up approach. So as we're going through just moving their body, mm-hmm. their endorphins are going, they're feeling good, and they're feeling comfortable, and they feel like they can open up with you, and they can.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to receive that. But we also need to remember to take care for ourselves, too.
Yes.
Like, as an empath, I take on a lot of energy of people, and I can feel that. Sometimes it's very overwhelming. So I need to remind myself to deal with that as well. And I think that's where my anxiety comes from if I don't deal with that. But yeah, with like I am starting to really love the personal training side of things paired with the way that I see things with yoga, because I can give them not only, the confidence in doing the movements properly, because I'm also super particular and super picky.
You've come up to me and been like, your client's back was weird on that last time. I'm like, Julia. Like, what are you saying? Like, you're saying I'm a crappy personal trainer right now?
No.
But yes, you are very anal about form, which is perfect. You want a trainer that is. And my client at that time, her back was, sure, whatever. I addressed it afterwards. I was like, thank you for the feedback. It just didn't feel like feedback at the time. I was like...
I love you.
Yes, I love you too, Julia. Yeah. Okay.
I'm only it's just to help you grow and benefit your client. So I'm very, picky and anal. And I just, I want people to be able to move well into their old age. And if they learn to do it properly, they'll be able to keep doing it properly, and they're not going to injure themselves. So along with that, not only can I give them that, but I can also give them tools for their daily life. Like, we only see them for 2, 3, maybe 4 hours a week. And then that's only 4 hours. I don't know how many hours in the day / times.
I think it's like 100 and I don't know. I don't know.
So many hours a week.
Long.
So we it's we have to make the best impression for them to take those tools and what we teach them outside of that. I had a client today, actually, one of the clients that were yours, and I said to her, I said, okay, your homework, gave her homework. I said, okay, every time you walk up the stairs, you're going to make sure that you're pushing through your heel. You're going to, whatever.
She's probably like, Parker never gave me homework.
I give all my clients homework.
I hate homework, so I'm never giving that.
Homework isn't like, depending what they need. It might be a printout of 100%. This is what it is. This is your homework for your workout. A lot of new clients of mine, which are 2 of the clients I got from you, they're new to me. I give them lifestyle homework. So her homework is, okay, as she's stepping up the stairs, she's stepping through the whole foot, making sure that she's engaging as she goes up the stair. Because we're working on these step ups that, you know, we do it for 10 minutes out of our session.
Right.
But if she's going and doing that every single day, going up and down her stair wrong, she just undoes what we just did,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So that's her homework for her body. But then there was homework for her mind where I said, okay, now during that last set, there was four times that you doubted yourself. You full on did it.
I was trying to figure
wrong.
out which client that you were talking about. Now I know.
Yeah. You did it wrong.
Yes.
And you doubted yourself. And then you stepped up, and I said, so what, you did it wrong. That happened. I said, I want you to acknowledge when you go through those moments. I want you to, in your life, you know, did you, I forgot to get this from the store.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I do this? And you beat yourself up about it. Or you say, I forgot to grab this from the store.
That's okay.
Okay, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
I said, right here, right now, this is the only moment that we have control over. What you just did, that has happened. You can't change that.
Yes.
What is going to happen, you can try your best to manipulate. You can try your best to set up the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
But you have no idea, because there's a whole wild world out there
Yeah.
that is also going to, you know, help that, whatever that outcome may be. So right here, right now is the only thing we have control over. So I just want you to acknowledge what it is when it happens and let it go.
Boom.
That's it.
Boom. I love that. So that being said, we are going to take a little break here again, and then we will be right back with the last segment of the show. And I hope you guys are enjoying it so far, and we'll be right back. And we are back again for the last time for today's episode. Last question for you. What is next for Julia? Boom.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What are you working on right now? Like, what has your time?
Yeah. So like I said, my life is in a crazy transition moment.
Fair.
But that's okay. I like challenges. So
Best things come from pressure.
Yeah.
And you're definitely in the heat of it.
That I am. I was that student in university that, like, you know, I leave to the last minute to do everying. I had friends that would do everything ahead of time, and like, and
their life would turn out kind of kosher. And
and then there's me, and I'm like, I'm gonna stay up till like 2 a.m. and do this. Just kidding, it's probably 5 a.m. But I did fine. Yeah, exactly. Like, obviously, I deal with anxiety because I push myself there. I do it to myself.
It's
like
so funny that you recognize all these
I
things.
recognize it all, but it's there. It just is. This is just. I know my faults. I just don't know how to not get into those holes.
That's fair.
That's nice. For the next episode. This looks cozy. I'm just gonna dive into this dark hole. No, next for me. So yeah, like I'm still taking on a couple more personal training clients. But other than that, once I get to, you know, my full clientele with that, and it's, you know, it's not taking up so much of my time, I'm starting to do more so with my yoga, personalized yoga, one-on-one. I'm good with doing like small groups, but I do already have a few yoga clients that I work with on a week-to-week basis, and helping them through whatever it may be. I have one who deals with anxiety. I have one who deals with depression and PTSD, and borderline, and then I have one that is bipolar, and deals with a lot of like anger and some anxiety. So a good variety
broad
there.
Spectrum
broad
of
spectrum
people
there.
That you work with.
It's a good. I'm happy to, because I know them all somewhat or quite personally, but it's a good place for me to start with that.
Okay.
And
where could people like find that, or where could people like message you about that?
I mainly work out of my Instagram account with that.
Okay. So
To
if we
just
got the plug from the little
right
little
here, click right there.
yeah.
um, so yeah, that's mainly what I do right now. I haven't set up anything yet. I'm
Right.
going to be setting up a website eventually.
But if somebody was interested right now and
It's kind of through word of mouth right
Fair.
now. Yeah, and then get a hold of me or,
Yep.
through Instagram. Obviously, if somebody's watching this, they contact you, they say, "Hey, loved that. Come,
Who's that
contact-"
lady?
Yeah, who's that? get me her email, get me her phone number, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm totally open to that. Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, I don't have like a website platform or anything I'm working with right now. Eventually I will.
The Leo's Touch website is actually coming
Yeah,
soon.
so you can
excited.
put my link
I'll
right
I'll
there
link
on
it.
it.
I'll make
You
make
can
sure you
have
get the plug.
I'll
make
just
sure you
I'll
get
just
the
get
plug.
like a yoga pose. I'll be like, I'm like right there. I need to stop doing that. Yeah, so that's gonna take up. Yeah, that's kind of what's next. I'd love to be able to grow that
Okay.
more, and I started to. I had it kind of getting on its way, and then my personal life just needed a little bit more attention. So
That's fair.
I've been dealing with that more so, and then along with my personal training. So, so that's kind of where I'm headed eventually.
Okay.
And I feel like who knows what's gonna happen with COVID next? Who knows what fall, winter's gonna bring us with it? We might feel a lot more isolation with that. So I just hope that, with the yoga, I can give people a sense of ease if we are back in a more isolated time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I know I said that was the last question. I don't know if I actually did say that was the last question, but for those of the people listening, or for anybody else out there who is dealing with extreme levels of anxiety or whatever at this point that they're dealing with, what would be your number one advice, or what would be something that you would share with somebody, not knowing them, not knowing their condition, but just sharing your general advice if somebody's battling with anxiety? What would that be?
Just anxiety in just as
Just
itself,
in general.
just
Yeah.
in general. Yeah, I mean, we're all going through a time of transition. Whether you feel really secure or not at all. So I think my biggest advice would be to acknowledge it. It's only going to make it worse by pushing it off to the side, and neglecting it. Just acknowledging it. Like I said, it's another emotion. That Inside Out movie, right? Like all the little.
I love that movie.
Right? It's so good. So it's just another one of our emotions. Just acknowledge it and ask yourself, okay, what does it need? Like my anxiety is my owl. It hangs out on my shoulder. It comes out at nighttime. What does my owl need? Like I literally like personalize, or I gave it an entity to acknowledge it, because it is such a large part in my life. It's my little owl. I love owls. It's kind of like my spirit animal. But
so you gave something that you like, or something that you don't like, the persona or
something that I
do like, so that you can understand it and acknowledge it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so it's my owl, and a lot of people in my life, they know, I'm like, oh, the owl's in the room right now. And it's sometimes easy because someone who does deal with anxiety, sometimes you don't know what you need.
Yeah.
Like your mind is so all over the place that it just shuts down, or it's so all over the place you just like you can't remember that scene in Harry Potter when
I've never seen Harry Potter. In
for those of you
in literally every single episode, somebody's like, in Harry Potter, never seen it.
So for those of you that have that scene in Harry Potter when he's, I think it's like the fourth one or something, and he's trying to like catch the keys out of the air, and they're just flying all over the place. There are these like flying keys, and they're like cutting him, and they're just all, and he just can't find the right
solutions. Are these keys solutions?
There's this one like hobbly key that's like this old key that he's trying to find to fit into the door, but it's all these other keys that are trying to stop him from getting this one hobbly key that's flying around. So that's how my mind is sometimes. There's just all these
keys.
Thoughts and keys and things like flying around, and it's like I'm trying to find that hobbly key that's gonna be the key to the solution, but I just can't. So
I hope somebody is like, that is the best analogy I've ever heard. Honestly, I think that there will be.
Yeah, I hope hope so. Please comment. Let me know that
Yeah.
you understood that.
I love this lady. That's
She's
funny.
a crazy bitch.
Okay, so wrapping up the advice
So the
piece.
advice is to acknowledge it.
Okay.
Like when I say the owl's in the room, that I can't grab that key, or I'm too numb to be able to say anything. If I can just say to those that love me and care for me the most, the owl's in the room. I don't know what I need. Then they know, okay, she'll calm down. She'll take her
She's
time.
dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. But acknowledge, like, I got to that place by acknowledging that that was a place that I was in, and acknowledging it as an emotion. And talk to people.
Yeah.
Talk to people. Let people know. Say it out loud. Saying it out loud to someone or to yourself, what you're going through is one of the best. That's half of what going to therapy is
100%.
right? So just saying it out loud, like, you get stuck in these negative thought patterns. You get stuck in your mind. I talked a lot about being in your mind and getting comfortable with being in your mind, but get comfortable with taking your mind and putting it out. Put it out in the world.
You know,
What's the harm in that?
I'm really happy that you said that. But if you watched some of the episodes before this, I didn't do the best of jobs describing this, and just watching it now, I'm kind of like, okay, I think I want to redo this episode. But I did an entire episode just with myself, talking about renting space in your mind and how that affects us, and how that, like, we rent space in our minds without having those tenants pay rent, but we let them do whatever they want in our minds. And I mean, if you want, go watch that episode, you know, if you have time.
Yeah, and
but
if I had watched the episode, maybe I'd
but
know
what you're
now,
alluding to
Janet.
does
Yeah.
kind of touch on that. So I love that, and I
Exactly.
appreciate that.
And so, like, something that my therapist has said to me recently was that for myself, I'm always that go-to person to be there for people. But I never want to burden other people. Like, I let them burden me, but I never let myself burden other people.
Fair.
So I have all these, he says, like, stones. Like, I'm carrying all of these stones from other people.
You did talk to me about this once, yeah.
So I'm carrying all of these stones from all these other people and holding them. And I'm starting to drop my own stones and my own issues and my own thoughts and my own feelings and my own experiences or whatever. And I'm carrying all of these other people's worries and needs that I'm forgetting about my own needs. I'm dropping them.
Yeah.
So he said it's okay to, you know, listen to your friends and be there for them, but what about your own needs?
Yeah.
So my own needs is acknowledging that I need something.
Yeah.
I need this, I need that. I need to acknowledge that
And
my
whatever
anxiety is
that
happening.
is, that's
whatever.
part of the journey, right?
Exactly.
And that's part of the process
Yeah.
and figuring that all out. So I appreciate you so much for sharing that. And I also really appreciate you for coming on to the show, because this was a boatload of fun. So
we could talk forever.
Literally, we could. And we definitely have.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, Julia. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
And with that being said, you guys, I appreciate you guys for watching the episode as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you guys have any questions or any questions on how to get in contact with Julia, just also comment on the show or DM, or go to whatever links that we've provided throughout the course of the episode. So thank you guys again so much for listening. And until next time, take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.